Moving right along then to our regular agenda items, which now include item 22, and we will start with item 22. Mr. Giegema,
yes.
Welcome.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Mayor Lane, council members. I have a presentation ready on the item, or if there's particular questions, whatever you prefer on this agenda item.
I'll defer to Councilwoman Klapp.
I'd like to see a presentation on this, please. Specifically, I'm not sure why this particular item is being suggested for funding. So if you can give me a presentation, that might be helpful.
Sure. We'll give you a brief, it's a brief cursory, I'm sorry. There we go. So I'll give you a little bit of background on the Wonder Space activation, which is at the Scottsdale Fashion Square Mall, roughly about 16,000 square feet, located near the, would be the open area where Harkins Theater used to be located. It's an interactive, experiential, and immersive network artwork show. This is the event's first request for event development funding. We've never had them come forward in the past. And the Tourism Development Commission wasn't unanimously recommended. It was a 6-to-1 vote. I should have updated that regarding the funding recommendation. The amount funding that was recommended was $50,000 for this particular event. Looking at some of the analysis and assessment for this that staff went through, as well as some of the consultants, the Wonder Space show will run from September to November with an anticipated attendance over 100,000 over that 3-month period. The show has actually been updated. It will run basically possibly a little bit earlier or later, either in August, but it will end in November. The festival producer is allocating $160,000 toward event marketing for the 3-month show against a total event budget of $1.6 million for the facility itself. The marketing promotional benefits outlined in the proposed agreement provide direct, considerable, substantial, equal value to the city regarding the expenditure that's being requested. Some of the additional analysis and assessment that staff went through regarding this particular funding request was it was an opportunity to fund a new or existing event that was occurring during the tourism shoulder season, which is the fall time, and potentially into the summer if it gets started a little bit earlier. In addition, the opportunity to develop events that create synergy with an existing event such as Canal Convergence has been identified as well, and we put some of the contract deliverables centered around that. So the requested action here this evening is adopt Resolution 11511, authorizing $50,000 for the activation Wonder Space.
Thank you.
Happy to address any questions you might have.
No, I think you explained it the way I understood it. So my problem with this event is that this is a business that operates out of space within Fashion Square. So it's a private enterprise. It's been there already. It's already providing an art installation, and the plans are that they will continue to have art installations throughout the year. Apparently it will change every few months. And so what this business is asking is for the city to provide funds for one of the events that they will have during the year. And I think because, tourism funds are scarce, and there's a lot of requests for them, that we should be very careful with the concept of providing public funds to fund a private enterprise that's providing a whatever they want to call it, an event or a show. It's an art installation. And I don't think it's appropriate for the TDC funds to be going to a private enterprise for a private event on private land. Normally the events that we fund are typically at Westworld or on other public property. So this would be, in my estimation, outside the norm of what the city typically provides funding for, and I think it's inappropriate. So, and I also question whether this is really a tourist destination. This is a location within a shopping mall. So the people that are going to be going there are primarily people who are in the mall, and you have to buy tickets for it. So it's a ticketed event. It's not a free public event. And in my estimation, that is meaning that we're providing funding for a for-profit business to provide something that probably is very nice. I'm not talking against Wonder Spaces. It's probably a great venue and a great business. But I believe that in this case that $50,000 of our scarce tourism funds for a project like this is misplaced, and I'm not going to support it. I'd like to hear what other people have to say about it, and we'll see what the rest of the council feels. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Councilwoman Klapp. I share some of the same feelings on this, and I think that this is more on the line with a private enterprise with a business model that it has actually exercised and used in other locations across the country. But the use of the terminology of an event in this particular case seems to be a little bit of a stretch, and it is in private property. It's within Fashion Square. It's hard for us to determine whether or not this meets some of the criteria of putting heads in beds as far as our overall tourism funds are concerned. And I'm concerned when we start moving further down the line into these area things that we are expanding the funding of things that may actually be competitive businesses in the arena, and ending up with creating a competitive disadvantage to some of the folks that may be with. They may be bringing people into the area. This is a shoulder season we're talking about, which has actually gotten stronger over the years. And so I'm not exactly sure what we're trying to accomplish here, but I am very concerned that not only is it a matter of scarce funds, it's a matter of how we're applying those funds and whether or not we're setting a precedent of subsidizing a business model that could easily be communicated into other businesses. Just from a fairness standpoint, I think you end up with an easy roll into other business models that may be similar on this line. So I won't be voting for this either. I think this is a little bit of an overplay here. Vice Mayor Milhaven.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Gigama, sure. You said the commission approved this, and I was confused. You said unanimously, and then you said not unanimously. So
Correct.
What was the vote, and what was their discussion that eventually led to their...
Yes, happy to fill you in. I apologize for the confusion on the unanimous. It was a 6-1 vote, as I recall, one commissioner elected not to move forward with the recommendation. Generally addressing some of these questions, generally our 5 event funding programs through our city tourism program, we have nonprofit organizations and we have profit organizations, depending on the type of program you are going into. The new event development program is eligible for private enterprises. So they are eligible to apply, and the Commission takes that into consideration in terms of the event or activation, however long it may go. They also take a look at some of the things that came up with specifically was it considered a day-to-day operation, if you will, and they discussed that as well, felt that the criteria of ineligibility associated with the day-to-day operation in Scottsdale wouldn't apply here, basically because of the duration of the event and the funding was only for 3 months. And there was some separation in terms of the activation. It would go down for a few months. So basically, that's what they discussed. Addressing the issue of a private venue, if you will, I think came up as well. Generally, our criteria is not established to identify the venue itself. It's applicable to whether the event or activation is open to the public. Whether it's ticketed or free, that's basically, they are eligible to apply for that. So I hope that addresses the issue with the venue itself. As long as it's not closed in and there are no tickets available where it's a select group of individuals attending, that would be ineligible, but based on what we have today, they were eligible to apply and potentially receive funding. So I hope that addressed some of the questions.
Thank you. So this entity does this all year long, and they're asking us to support 3 months of what they're doing the rest of the year?
Correct. They have shows throughout the year at this particular venue. This would be for a 3-month show in the shoulder season, as I mentioned, and it does have some marketing benefits associated, as well as potential tourism and economic impact. When we look at a particular event, even though we particularly don't build our deliverables, which were included in the packet around the economic impact associated with it, there are some. When we have events either in the downtown area, or at Westworld. Our hope is that people get introduced to Scottsdale. It's a trigger potentially for visitation as well as day visitation as well. So there is some economic impact associated with bringing day visitors to this particular event. From a tourism perspective, it also has an interest from a marketing perspective that fits one of our tourism drivers, which is art and culture, which is some of the things we're trying to position as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Littlefield?
Thank you, Mayor. I had some questions and some problems with this also, and I spoke with our city people about it. She answered a lot of my questions, but she didn't answer all of my concerns. And I probably didn't address some of those concerns when I should have, and I apologize for that. I did understand that this contract is for 5 to 10 years. Is that correct?
It is a one-year agreement, solely based on the duration of the event. So at the conclusion in November, we'll begin the process to close it out with a post-event report, ensuring they meet contractual obligations. No funds are extended until contract obligations are met.
Okay, but they do intend on continuing this and asking for additional funds going forward?
Not necessarily. My understanding it's for 3 months. The commission did have a conversation with the producer of the event asking that specific question, and the intent is here just for this 3-month duration show.
Because that's not what I read there, but that's okay. It is a private entity. It is a for-profit entity, and it is done in a for-profit scenario, which is Fashion Square, which is run for-profit, the businesses in there. And I have a problem with starting something like this and doing something like this. Where does it go from here? What else are we going to be doing in a for-profit scenario business? What other businesses are we going to be supporting with our tax dollars because we can say it's an event or it's a tourism event that maybe this leads into? So I do have a concern with doing something like this. I don't think it's not what we originally intended these monies to go for, I don't think. Maybe it could morph into it, I don't know, but I do have some major concerns with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Whitehead?
I agree with much of what was already said. I think it's really nice. I haven't been there yet. I keep meaning to go. I do want to be the city that attracts new types of, art. I guess it's being called art. And I think this fits that, and I'm really pleased that they're here. But I think what the mayor said about heads and beds, I don't think, to me, we don't have the definitive proof that this brings heads to beds. And I think there are so many other ways that we can help with make this successful through promotion and other ways. I don't support using our limited TDC dollars for it.
And to possibly fill you in a little bit more on some of the what we received when we were analyzing the event itself. We anticipate about 100,000 individuals be attending this, of which about 25% potentially could come from outside the region. We really won't know that until we actually look at the activation that's being programmed under that. We do have the option to do a survey, which is shared by the producer, and we could find out more of that information going forward because we always try to find out as much as we can. And just one clarifying point on, I know there's been some conversation about public and private, the organization itself. Just to clarify that, some of our programs are specific, like the community event and the multi-year community event, nonprofits, organizations. But the majority of our other events that apply in the matching event, the new event development, the event venue fee program, they are technically for-profit organizations in terms of their organizational structure. Just want to clarify that.
Thank you. And actually, that was one part that I didn't have a problem with, so the profit, nonprofit.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilmember Cordy.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have a problem with the for-profit either. Last time I looked, Barrett-Jackson was a for-profit entity and charges a pretty good size entry fee, and we provide significant dollars for that program. I don't understand why. So this programming has been going on at Scottsdale Fashion Square for 6 months.
My understanding, the first show opened up in March, and I could be wrong on that date. They're currently in one show called Elsewhere, I believe, and this one would be a new one starting in August or September. I believe that's correct. So it'd be the second series of shows, and then it will last for a duration of 3 months. Then they will go dark for a period of time, and then another show may take its place.
So why is it that they are coming for a $50,000 ask if their shows carry themselves? Help me with that.
Well, I think initially, why they initially applied for the application was readily available. They positioned this that we could, from a tourism perspective, market this in terms of art and culture during that duration of time. In addition to that, staff saw some benefits that we wanted to plug in with canal conversions as well as some donations. 10% of select donations are going directly to I believe it's a community art trust fund as well related to their benefits and what they provide. So we focused on that. Why they initially came to us for the 3 months, they qualified. They were hoping to get some funding related to this, and then the commission recommended it, and we built those deliverables for it.
So the $50,000 is specifically for additional marketing?
There are some marketing elements associated, not so much print, social, some other opportunities advertising here locally. This one was unique in terms of its structure. Generally, most of our events that come forward here are almost basically advertising to market the destination, whether locally or nationally. Because the structure of this, we had some opportunity to offer some benefits to the public, specifically the Scottsdale residents, to attend the show on select given nights for free, 3 nights, and also work with the Scottsdale School District as well. So we did some structuring there as well as the 10% donation, as I mentioned earlier, that were somewhat unique. We generally don't do that for most of our event funding programs.
And you mentioned the canal convergence. How are they going to work with and create some type of symbiotic association there?
Well, not being directly in the marketing for either organization, our hope is that they would start working together to explore those options, how best to do that. Our goal would be through the activation in Scottsdale Fashion Square that we would further promote the Canal Convergence event, which I believe kicks off in November. So that would be a good tie on the closure of this one. So it gives us some opportunities to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilman Phillips.
Thank you, Mayor. So I actually went to the grand opening, and it's the coolest thing ever. So I would say to anybody that has a chance to go see it, it's really neat. And I heard that I think every 3 months they rotate, and you said something about they're going to go dark for a while.
That is my understanding.
So to me, giving $50,000 for an event, this just isn't an event. This is a business that's going to keep on running whether we give them the money or not. I don't see it as they need the money, and then in most of these events we do this over a 3-year period, and then they're supposed to be on their own. Well, they're already on their own. But like you said, the money was there. Anybody can apply, so that's what they did. So personally, I just feel like this is probably not right for us. Maybe Scottsdale Arts might want to get involved with them, but I don't think it should come out of our money. So I guess I'll move to deny resolution number 11511.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Phillips and seconded by Councilwoman Klapp. Would you like to speak to it?
Yeah, just one more thought that was mentioned by Councilwoman Littlefield, that this does set in my mind, a precedent. I know that we have provided funding for profit organizations in the past. Typically, that's at one of our facilities. Westworld comes to mind as a big one. That's where Craig Jackson operates. And yes, they're for profit, but we want to activate Westworld. And so that's one of the reasons why we like Westworld to have the Barrett Jackson show. There's the Polo show. They make money on that. I'm not against anybody making money. But I do feel that the precedent it sets is that this is a new kind of art gallery. and is art installation in an art gallery. So any art gallery could come to us and say, we've got this new show that's coming in, and we want to have funding for our show that's going to be during those shoulder months as well. And if we give funding for this, then how are we going to stop it the next time around? So I think we need to recognize that this is not really appropriate for the monies that are available through the tourism funds, and so that's why I second the motion.
Thank you, Councilman. I just want to add one final observation on this, and I am very concerned about the precedent, not about whether it's profit or not for profit. That's not an ever criteria, I think, for us. That's not it. Well, with the exception of commercialization of competing interests with the gallery district. That's the only time we've ever gotten in. And you could make a case even in this area as far as that's concerned. But you're talking about something that is being leasing space inside a facility. I'm wondering if we apply this same logic, if a hotel were to have an event inside their hotel grounds, and it was seemingly an event for all other reports that we're talking about as we are with this, would we be funding something that was specifically into a facility? Now, this is in Fashion Square. They lease space from them. Fashion Square, and with God bless them, Fashion Square is a great corporate citizen. They're a great amenity to downtown, but it's not generally been in our business to be subsidizing bringing traffic directly and specifically to them. I mean, if they wanted to give the space away because they recognize that value, that'd be one thing. But so I'm just a little concerned, and I'm trying to define what my concerns are with regard to our precedent. Where does this stop? Now we might be inside the Princess, and they're having a big event, and we now say that, hey, it qualifies, and we need to do something there too. And I'm concerned about that precedent more than anything.
Mayor Lane, those are all good points, and I know the Tourism Development Commission is scheduling their work study session in September, and this is probably one of the topics we'll discuss a little bit further coming away from this evening about the criteria. And as Council knows, we just recently approved our criteria for the new fiscal year, which can be adjusted and changed based on any recommendations. So that will probably be a topic of discussion.
Well, thank you, Mr. Gagum. I appreciate that. I think we're then ready to vote on the motion that's on the table and been seconded. All those in favor of the motion to deny, please indicate by aye, and those opposed with a nay. Aye. It's unanimous and in denial. Thank you very much for the presentation, too.